There's that scripture in Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 4, where it says, "Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord." And I'm starting to think that nesting among the stars, even ascending into heaven or climb up to heaven, as Amos 9:2 suggests, I'm starting to think that outer space or the heavens that God says people will climb into or climb up to, where they will nest among the stars, the same place, the abode, the heavens above, where Nimrod tried to get to via the Tower of Babel before he brings him down. This heaven, or this above, and the extra dimension or alternate dimension is one in the same. And when we look at a story like this one and think about the imagery of the portal, it all starts to make sense. That there is a deep connection between the alternate universe or the extra dimension or the spiritual dimension, that other side, and what we've been led to believe is outer space. Maybe it's really just another dimension up there, and we do have access to it, but there are specific properties that we are not privy to yet. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts. Ponder on that for a little.
Okay, so I came across this morning, and of course I just had to comment on it briefly because pretty pretty interesting to hear Gonz saying this, and not only saying what he says, but the fact that he shows the the well-known picture. I believe was a wood carving, wood block, of the firmament that is so often associated with flat Earth and enclosed cosmology. And that, so whether or not he's fully going to that length at this point, honestly, at this point, I think I'm not even so concerned with, because what he's saying here really for me is kind of one of the most pivotal and interesting points of this whole thing, and it's kind of what I've been talking about ever since I started producing content here, and really just touches on just kind of one of the whole points of contemplating this idea of enclosed biblical cosmology and the implications as far as the spiritual realm, and what they are really trying to do with all these secret projects, whether it's speculations about a secret space program, or CERN and interdimensional portals and all these things, and seeing how these things keep bleeding into each other, and what are all the connections. And for me, honestly, I think I'm at the point where if someone is able to, if Gonz really is just getting to this point where he just can kind of see that there's so many signs that point to what he's saying in terms of the up there being really the dimension, the higher dimensions, the second heaven, then that is huge in my book. And I'm not gonna nitpick over, because I think a lot of people, it's interesting because he's been getting hit with this for over a year now, and I think a lot of people they get hung up on, they come up against flat Earth, and they think it's just all about, they completely miss all the dimensional aspects of it and all those implications of it. So I don't really know how, but I think a lot of people do, because of just whatever material they encounter first, and it kind of gives them a certain impression of what it's all about. And so that's been something that's been really frustrating to watch, and I've been trying to counteract that in my own little way to try and explore this idea of that. Because in that first few weeks when I really started taking a serious look at flat Earth, this is just what jumped out at me, was the whole hyperdimensional aspect, and understanding that the connections between the stars and the angelic host and the heavens, and from a biblical perspective, it's just, it's all talking, it's clearly the spiritual realm, and obviously if you get into the book of Enoch, it's just in your face. It's undeniable that you're talking about things on a spiritual dimensional capacity. So yeah, this is pretty crazy that he's he at least is saying this, and so I want to just um, affirm that, and hopefully we'll see what kind of develops. But this is very interesting. And again, I think if we just are able to kind of stop and not get crazy dogmatic about pushing a specific model, or pushing a specific concept that we may have about what the firmament is made of, or how exactly the four corners work, or all these things, which are great, interesting topics that I love to explore. But I think really in conjunction with how things tie into the alien deception, just these very sort of foundational concepts of just the spiritual realm and space and that connection. I mean, if people can start to grasp that and explore that and at least ask that question, then that is significant. And for me, I'm really less concerned with just arguing with people over whether they want to just straight up fully admit the flat earth or not. Obviously I've been pretty convinced there with all the curvature testing and everything else, but it's the implications of it that are really the whole point anyways. So hopefully that makes sense to people, and hopefully that's something that we can all kind of learn to keep in mind as we're dialoguing with people that are really so far along in terms of their understanding of things like the UFO phenomenon and the demonic agenda behind that, and how things fit into the beast system and transhumanism and everything else, right? Interdimensional gateways and portals and stargates and all these things, which again, in the enclosed cosmology, suddenly just kind of all snap together in this amazing way, which has just been blowing me away ever since I kind of realized it. But I think more and more people are, and obviously we got to remember that people are coming to this from different angles and different perspectives, and they're bringing different, nobody kind of comes at it in the exact same way. And other people are also, if they're more entrenched in, they have years of research that involve space or involve things, it does make it harder for them to let go. And I think this really kind of highlights how we can point out that all that research is not just for nothing, and it's not just all a waste. It's just putting it in a new light, in a new dimension, pardon the pun. And so it really just kind of takes it all into a new, just like he says, we can access parts of it. So whatever they're doing, obviously we all agree that they're sending rockets up there and doing whatever. And maybe, I still go back and forth whether they, it's possible that they might be putting satellites or orbiting around the plane or around in the firmament or whatever. And I don't think that those questions are off the table. But obviously that's still a far cry from going into, space, which even they agree in a heliocentric model that they can't do, even though they supposedly went to the moon. So, yeah, it's what's really interesting is that it makes you realize that for people who are within a biblical, especially like this biblical prophecy kind of approach to things, right? Even within the conventional heliocentric model, there has always been sort of this vague understanding that at some point, even if you believe in physical planets that are made out of rock and gas and things that are orbiting, and, if you believe in the whole space paradigm, there's so many people out there that have understood that at some point in some way that interfaces with the spiritual realm, and they understand that there's this like thematic connections between planets and the names of gods, and how everything that NASA and even the occult has always been obsessed with the stars and with the planets and with all these things, and they see all these connections, but it's just this very kind of foggy, it's just kind of pushed way out there to where you're not really worrying about like really how that happens. It's just kind of, it's very removed, right? Because of the space itself is just so vast and big. So at some point there's an overlap between orbital, all these things orbiting around in space and the spiritual realm, but it's just very unclear and just kind of left, largely left unexplored, and more or less only explored through the approach of the symbolism. And I think what enclosed cosmology does is just take that already existing understanding, but then just brings it all right close up, and that to where instead of just, it's so far away that you kind of don't think about it, it's right overhead, and you start thinking about the sun, moon, and stars in their firmament being, or however high up they are above our heads, and it just makes it much more immediate and pressing, and to where suddenly you're seeing things that perhaps are physical, but also part, existing in higher spiritual realms, like the stars, and suddenly just opens up this whole kind of new perspective on the interplay between what we would call the physical and spiritual realms, or our 3D space-time dimension, and then the higher dimensions. And so yeah, just wanted to comment on that a little bit, and hopefully this is just the beginning of a real breakthrough in terms of commonality, and able to kind of continue this discussion, because that's definitely what I would hope that it is. Thanks.